Hi, and welcome to the episode all about critiques.
Hi, we will be discussing choosing the best critiquer for your work, how to listen and make the most of the feedback that you're going to receive, and how to give good critiques.
And before we begin, I think Olga has some good news to share.
Yay! So a couple weeks ago, because this episode is a couple weeks behind, my publisher announced in Publishers Weekly that my debut picture book is going to be published on winter of 2023, and it's
Woo!
and it's going to be published by Fievel and Friends, which is an imprint of Macmillan.
So
And so
cool.
exciting.
So how long have you actually known and you couldn't say anything?
Months and months. Yeah, that's the thing about this industry. It's very hush hush. So you cannot have to celebrate inside. Yay! and and then you finally get to tell the world, and then you get to celebrate again.
Yay, that's cool. Well, I'm so glad you get to talk about it now.
Yeah,
It's so
yeah.
hard.
It helps to. I don't know. It's not so lonely all by yourself. You just want to tell at least your friends. You're like, this is happening. So
And you don't have to talk around things in conversations now. Like
yeah, yeah. That's so true. Yeah.
so I guess maybe we should just get started.
Yeah, I think this is a good episode because in our careers, it I think it was one of the things that guided us the correct way. So it will be good if you know how to make the most of receiving your critiques.
Yeah, and this is a difficult topic, I think, for a lot of people because it's hard to hear some of these things sometimes.
Yeah,
It's a sensitive subject. This is your art and it's part of who you are. So you have to be able to take it with a thick skin but also learn how to work through it and work with it.
yeah. How to extract the little nuggets that you're
Mm-hmm.
getting because yeah, your feelings are going to get hurt. I mean, nobody
Yeah,
likes to hear this is wrong, and
yeah,
I think it all depends on your expectations going in too.
true.
So
Yes, very
yeah.
much. So, what is a critique and why do we need one?
I think the best way to describe sometimes when you're inside a painting, you can see all the borders, you can't see the entire picture, but someone from the outside can see in.
Oh,
Because
yeah, that's a good
yeah,
analogy.
like you're drawing something and you know what's in your head, you know what you intended to do with that, but
Mm-hmm.
you don't know if it came across, but the other
Yeah,
person that is just seeing it from scratch.
yeah, because you're emotionally attached to it.
Yeah,
So, you have all these ideas and feelings that go along with it. But if they are not coming through the art, someone else won't see it the same way.
yeah. And that's what is important. You have to remember that at the end of the day, your illustration has to stand on its own. You're not going to be sitting next to
Yeah.
it holding its little hand going it's going to
Yeah.
be okay and everybody's going to like you.
Oh,
It's just going to sit by itself, and it has to deliver the message that you want it to deliver in the first
yeah.
place,
Yeah.
and it has to be without you there to explain it.
Yeah. You can't helicopter parent your art.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. You got to let your little baby go.
Yeah. So my the first critique I got, I didn't know how to choose the critiquer, the person that would critique my work. So I just signed up for a critique. I didn't think about, or I didn't take notice of what type of art they did. It was an illustrator that critiqued it. And she was an illustrator for board books, but I'm a picture book illustrator, and most of her artwork was vector art. Not that that means that she's a bad illustrator. It's just she worked in a different field than I was looking to go into. So her feedback was beneficial. She's the one who said, "Don't draw. You shouldn't draw. Put things in your portfolio that you don't want to continue to draw." But she wasn't able to give me some of the better feedback that I got later on when I went to art directors and art directors that worked in picture books.
Okay.
And yeah, so I think but after having that one, then I knew read the bio. I knew to read the bio of the critiquer before I signed up with them. So I knew what kind of books they were interested in or what kind of books they worked
Yeah.
with.
When you sign up for these conferences, and we keep talking about them because they're quite important in this journey if you are able to. The good thing is during the pandemic, they're online, most of them, and they are way, way less expensive than they would be if you were going in person. So if you're able to do one, do one. It's a little overwhelming because you see a lot of classes and all and workshops and all of that. But if you are able to get a critique, they will have a list of all the critiquers that are there and the field they work in. Do your research, look them up, see what they do, what they publish. Other illustrators, other editors, other art directors, and see which one would be the best one to give you advice on what you're doing and what you're trying to get to.
Yeah, and this applies to authors as well. It's very similar. So if you're looking to work in picture books, you wouldn't go to get a critique from someone who does YA and graphic novels, right, or middle grade. You want someone who has experience in the field that you're looking to go into.
And yeah, so for example, if I wrote a story and I have a book dummy, I would choose an editor to critique it.
Yeah, not an illustrator.
Well, I would choose an illustrator if I want to know if the artwork is working out. But if I want to know if the story is working out, I would choose an editor.
Yeah, another benefit to critiques is that very often you can submit to that editor or art director after you are critiqued by them. Sometimes it's usually said within the bio.
Yes, like when they put the information. And sometimes those agents are closed for submissions.
Well, I said art directors and editors. I should have said agents and art
agents
directors
as well. Sometimes it's agents, and they are usually closed for submissions, but they'll go ahead and open it for a certain amount of time after the conference. They'll probably say like, you can submit to me for 2 months or 1 month after.
And so, please note that you were at the conference or I critiqued you or whatever.
Right. So that's also a benefit from doing these. And that's why you want to choose the right person to critique your work, because you know that you're going to have an opportunity to submit to them later on.
Yes.
So it depends what it is that you're trying to see in your artwork. You remember, you have 15 minutes, so you're not going to be able to get everything checked out, but it is a big boost and a big help that in that moment they can pick the big problems that you can fix.
That's true. And because you only have 15 minutes, you really need to focus your attention on, like, if you have any questions to ask, you should have those ready before you go in.
That's a good idea. Be ready, be open. In that moment, you're going to get all this information. It's going to fly over your head because it's going to be fast. So try to make a mental note of it. Sometimes the written critiques are good because you can go back and read them and reread them and try to extract information from them.
There's not as much back and forth though with the written critique.
But there isn't, right? You cannot come up with a secondary question at that moment, or what do you mean by that? Or some of them allow you to write back, but they will tell you that, and they'll be like, if it wasn't clear enough,
And there's usually a limit to how many questions you can ask.
Yes. But you want to have already an idea. I would say don't go into a critique thinking that they're going to open your book and go, wow, where have you been my entire life? Here's a contract that I happen to have in my purse. Please sign in my pocket.
It's just here in my pocket.
That's not what it's going to be about. And if you're going with those expectations, you're probably going to be quite disappointed because I don't know. I'm sure it happens, but I'm going to go with 99% of the times that's not what happens.
You're there for feedback. Feedback.
Right. Go thinking I'm there to hear what's right and what's wrong with this artwork that I'm putting in front of this person. Don't go there going like, they're just going to love me, because if they don't, it's going to hurt a lot.
And
And if I wanted to have a critique on my art portfolio, then I would choose either an established illustrator or an art director to critique the
Yeah.
artwork.
Yeah.
So okay, so you have your 15 minutes. Now, how do you make the most of the information you're going to get? Because you really have to listen. And I guess I will talk here about my which we touched on the first episode, which was one of the best critiques I've ever gotten. Not the not 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 the most flattering one, but the best critique I
But
got.
it was a life-changing event.
Yes, it was, because I got a few more after that, and they were all they made me feel good. There were some things I could work on, but this one is the one that actually made me roll up my sleeves and change direction and go, okay, I really really have a lot of work to do.
It also made you cry.
It did make me cry.
Maybe that's the
You know
key.
what, I will be completely honest, I went to that critique with thinking he was just going to be like, wow, where have you been? Let's go.
Here's your
When can you
contract.
start? Here's
Yeah.
your contract. Because I didn't know anything and I had never had a critique before. And yeah, it's insane. Match, don't go with those expectations. It's just sometimes you don't know what you don't know, right? So,
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
yeah. So, even though it was the harshest, not because that he was mean, he was absolutely wonderful. Um, but he was very honest. And the feedback he gave me, although I found it confusing at the moment because I had no idea what he was saying to me, I made a mental note and I went back home and I wrote down values and wrote down everything he was talking about and where in the picture he was pointing at, so that I could go home and kind of analyze everything and figure out
Mm-hmm.
what it is that what happened. So if you can make a mental note, or oh my goodness, write it
Or
down.
take notes.
So
I took
yes.
notes. Yeah.
And I'm not shy about writing on my work. I know it's like, oh, sacrilegious, do not, but I go with two portfolios. And if I paid for a critique and I see this art director pointing at something, I'll be like, here's a pencil.
Here,
Circle
draw
it. I
over.
don't
Do a draw
care.
over.
No, it's not a draw over. It's just 15 minutes. But I will be like this here, and I will go ahead and circle it. I don't care. I have another portfolio that's at the table, but I want to remember everything that's happening
Yeah.
there, because once I go home, and you know that the conferences are so full of information, and you go home and you have to decompress, you have to be like you have to break it
Yeah.
down. I want to remember what that critique was about. So written ones are a little bit easier to do that, but the ones in person, you have to pay attention.
Yeah. And it's not a comfortable thing when you're sitting there getting feedback, because typically, yes, there is going to be good feedback, but there's also negative feedback, or I guess negative is not a good word,
Oh,
but
bad
it's,
news, or like,
yeah, bad news, telling you what you need to improve on. So they'll probably tell you things what your strong points are, and then they'll tell you what your weak points are. And when you hear the weak points, it's difficult to digest that and sit in that. And it is hard not to get defensive and try to defend your work and say, oh, well, I didn't have time to do this, or for me, like with client work, oh, they wanted that, and I don't know, like it's very easy to explain away your deficiencies and try to defend it.
and if you're doing that, you're missing the point of what a
Mm-hmm.
critique is. Yeah, like you really have to check your ego at the door, leave it in
Yeah.
there, and then walk in and just don't defend it. They're not. It's not like if you give them an explanation, then they're going to change their mind. Oh, no, it's wonderful. Sorry, I didn't know that what you meant to do was this. No, they're just
Yeah.
reading the artwork for what it is at that moment. This is what I read in this artwork, whether you meant to do it or not.
Yeah.
This is what I see. So what's the point of excusing it, or saying no, but what I wanted to do was this? Well, it was not. It didn't come through.
Yeah. And I didn't really think about this until now, but they're in a very vulnerable situation. They're sitting there having to telling you what they think, and they know that it's probably going to hurt your feelings. And
Right.
so they have to be very gentle and try to, try to give you the truth without being, without destroying your ego.
Right. No, yeah,
So it's hard.
do know that that's um I know someone who's an art director, and I remember the hearing it doesn't feel good on this end either, to have to, it's like a doctor giving you bad news.
Mm-hmm.
They don't they that You're right. I think they're
Yeah.
human too, and they have to sit there one after the other, and for you it is your 15 minutes, but for them you're one of 10 or one of 15,
Right.
and it's
And they're
15
going
minutes after 15.
yes. So they probably have like 20 people that day who,
Yeah, it's just like I
out
have
of,
to break 20 hearts today.
yes. I'm sure there are some who are fine and don't give them a hard time, but I'm sure there are quite a few. I mean, we're artists,
Yeah.
so we care about our work. Or we wouldn't be at a conference
Right.
getting a critique. That's the point.
So the first thing is, don't get defensive. Remember, you asked for this critique. Someone didn't walk out of the street and go, oh, let me tell you what I think about your work. No, you paid and you asked this person, tell me how to improve this. Tell me what's not working. Tell me what's working. So you asked for it. So be ready to receive the news, however they come.
However, good or bad.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. If they see your work differently than you intended, then you need to ask yourself, like, why did they see it differently? What made them think that? So listen to what they're saying and hear the good. You can hear the bad, but also hear the good.
Oh, yeah.
And if they're not saying what you expected to hear and they see your work differently, then you need to think about what made them see it that way. But also focus on the good that they told you, because that's something you're doing correctly, and you want to keep doing that and do more of that.
See, this is why your name is Sunny, because you
see the good in things.
Because you do it. You're right.
Yeah.
I know that they might be saying something nice, but there is something good in it, and
yeah,
be happy with that. You're
and
right.
if they're a good critiquer, they'll always include the critique sandwich: something good, something bad, and then something good.
You have to take some time to process. So after we come back from these conferences, like we said before, you come back with, you've done session after session and classes. You've met 50 plus people. You've exchanged phone numbers, well, not phone numbers, but emails with so many people. I have to say, I'm horrible with names. And
I know you called me Sarah.
Yeah, I called you Sarah. I am really bad with names. I try, but they don't stay. And sometimes someone will be like, hey, Olga, and I'm like, and I know the face, and I'm going like through all the names it could possibly be, and then I'm like, I'm actually honest. I'm like, I'm sorry, I know you, but I cannot remember your name. I'm sorry, repeat it. So when you come back from these things, your head is gonna be filled with information. So take some time to
digest it.
Yeah, to digest, exactly. Break it down and sit down with the notes and see what you can do. What can you tackle first?
Yeah.
See if you don't understand. If you don't understand and you're able to ask for clarification, great. If they allow you one more email back and say, I'm sorry, can you clarify this? Can you give me a little bit more on this? Then great. If not, look it up. See what they mean, pick up a little bit, ask your critique group, what do you think?
I was going to say, ask your critique group or friends who are also illustrators, because they can help you see what, or maybe help you see what.
Sorry.
Oh, it's okay.
I don't know why I have an alarm. Oh, I know why I have an alarm. Is it 9 o'clock?
It's 6:55.
I don't know why I have an alarm this time. I don't know.
So your friends?
I'm supposed to be somewhere and I don't know where.
Great. Uh-oh. Is it at the webinar that's not until next week? Anyway.
Oh gosh, Sunny. I don't know how we do it.
I don't know either. Sometimes we make it to where we need to be. Sometimes we don't.
Sometimes we show up a day early,
Yeah.
and sometimes, like, I took my kids. Oh, allow me a moment. I took my kids to a dress-up birthday party. This is when they were little. I have a present. I show up. No one's there. I called the mom. I showed up a day late.
Oh
Like,
no. Oh, it's
my
not like
kids,
you could go the next
I can't. I
day.
couldn't fix it. Oh,
Oh
my kid. I was not a popular mom.
no.
They were all
Thanks,
dressed.
Mom. Oh, what were they
Oh,
dressed up as?
I can't even remember because at that
Oh,
age, every single birthday party
yeah.
was a dress up birthday party. Oh my goodness. I was,
Oh.
yeah, the kids were bad. Like they were upset with me that day.
Oh wow.
Human, what can I do? So I always have alarms going off in my thing on my calendar, and I can't do it without a calendar. Okay, back on
Okay.
track.
Yes, back on track. So yeah, what did we
You were
say? Oh
gonna
yeah.
say research
So
for.
your friends, you can ask your friends for help on if they may be able to help you figure out how to, or okay. You can ask your friends for help, critique partners or other
You,
illustrators.
you can even go on Facebook, on the Facebook groups, and say,
Mm.
don't.
Oh,
I'm gonna
don't
say
call
this.
out the
Yeah,
critique person
exactly.
that critiqued you.
This is even though it seems like a huge industry, it's very small indeed,
Yeah,
and everybody knows everybody else. So don't ever burn bridges. Don't call out the critiquer. Don't call out their names. Just say, I got this critique and I don't know exactly what they meant by this. Here's a sample of my work. Can anyone help me figure it out?
yeah,
Don't, yeah, do not burn bridges because you never know.
yeah. Yeah, so and yeah, you can also research on your own. Um, and sometimes there are sometimes critiques go okay, sometimes they go great, and sometimes they're hard. And then there are some times where they don't go well, and you just have to take it with a grain of salt because it's um it's out of your control. You know, you just move on from it.
And also understand that this is one person in the
Mhm.
industry. They know what they're talking about, but it is one person's opinion, and it might not be their cup of tea. Maybe they don't like line work, and other people like line work. So it could
Oh,
be
very
little
true.
things like
Yeah.
that. Yeah. So extract as much as you can, and then take it with a grain of salt. And then
Yeah.
we're also going to tell you about
Yeah. These
some
are
critiques.
subjective.
Yeah.
All critiques are subjective.
We're going to tell you about some critiques that we got.
Hmm.
That were probably not the most helpful, or we extracted as much as we could from the critique, but at the end of the day we're like, okay,
Yeah.
that didn't move me forward much. I got a critique on a book that I wrote, a picture book, and I got like a blanket statement: write what you know. And I'm going, yeah, what does that mean? And yes, I know what it means. I am Latina, but that doesn't mean that I only want to write about that
Yeah.
subject or be
Yeah.
in a box. I also like to write about other things.
But and also, how does it apply to the book? You know, how does that
Exactly
apply? It's fine if they said that, but they also need to back it up with maybe a little more information.
right. No, this was a blanket statement that I just
Mhm.
got. Write what you know, and I'm like, well, that did not help me. If you could please say
Yeah.
something else, like this is what's missing in the structure of the story or whatever it
Hmm.
is, not just you see my name and therefore I should be in this box. So
Hmm.
um so those critiques, you just have to be like, okay, well, that's all I'm going to
Yeah.
get out of this critique, and then you move on.
Yeah. Yeah.
um
And then we had a critique
oh
with the
gosh.
same person. So I don't I understand at some so when a person is a critiquer, they usually get quite a few submissions for critiques. So at these conferences or after webinars, I don't know what the number is it could be 10, it could be 15 people they might have to critique. So I understand that they have to it's a large number.
Sometimes give a presentation as well, so
Yeah, so
it's
it's
quite a
a
lot of work on their plate.
yeah, it's a lot to do, and but Olga and I both submitted at the same time for the same person.
Completely different stories.
Yes, completely different stories. And the critique I got back had Olga's character name in it for
Right.
me.
So it was a lot of copy and paste. And it just
And
happened that we knew each other and we had the same
yeah,
critiquer, and we're like, wait a minute, what does this mean? Why are they talking
so
about my character in your story? And
yeah,
yeah, so
yeah.
we were,
So
that
then
was
you
another one that we just,
question, yeah, then you question, okay, is any was any you question everything else in the critique, like is it worth listening to?
so you just move on, like I said, don't burn bridges, and just take whatever you can. This one was a good critique. Okay, then move on.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
play nice.
Try, yes, that you have to in this industry, and I would say anywhere. I mean, you have to learn to play nice with others, and if you want to get into traditional publishing, gosh, you have to play well with others, because it's not a one-man show at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's my grandmother used to always say, "No escupas para arriba." With if you translate it to English, it actually says, "Don't spit up," because it will come back down. It's quite gross, but that's what I would say.
I guess that
Don't
makes sense. Okay.
don't I think the English version would be like, "Don't spit
Don't
downwind,"
spit.
or
Oh yeah, don't spit into the wind or don't
into the
spit down.
wind. Okay, yeah. Well, in Spanish, there's "No escupas para arriba."
Actually, that sounds better than don't spit into the wind. I
But it's
don't
still
know.
just as gross. So
Yeah. Yeah. Were people spitting a lot?
I don't know.
I guess they were. They probably were. So much spitting. Okay.
So let's see. So we already know the best you can do to try to continue your work moving forward once you get used critiques. But you also, at some point in your life, you're going to have to give a critique to someone else. And so we're going to talk about how to give a good critique.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. The
And
first thing I would say, wait to be asked. don't don't just offer
that
one.
is a key. That is very important. Like you said, they're not going to run up on the street and try to critique your work.
I saw your work and I
However,
want to tell you about it.
however, if you put your work out there, sometimes there are a lot of people who are like happy to run up there and tell you, what they think about it.
And that's part of it. That is part. If you're keeping it inside and you're okay, so let's wrap this whole. I have this whole thought in my head, so that's why I'm taking a breath before I say this. If you want to make it in this industry, you got to put your work out there. No one is going to knock on your door and go, "Hey, I heard that you're an illustrator and I would like to see your work so that I can give you work." It's not going to happen. You have to put your work out there. But when you put your work out there, you're going to find people that are more than willing to give you critique before you ask for it.
Yeah.
And, whatever, take it as it is. Maybe there's good information in there. Remember, these people are reading your story or your book or your illustration without any feedback from you as to what you intended it to be.
Yeah.
And it's always good, because then you're like, okay, well, this is how the world is seeing it. Whether I intended or not, this is how the world is seeing it.
Yeah. Because we usually have rose-colored glasses on, and we're definitely not seeing it the same way as everyone else.
Yeah. But if you were going to give a critique to someone else, this is how you would do it. You want to take it?
Yeah. I mentioned earlier, that you use the sandwich method. It's you start with something nice about the piece or the story, and then you give the negative, but in a nice way. And then you end with something nice, because it's easier to eat a sandwich if it has two good things in it between the bad things.
And the spinach is in the middle.
Yeah.
At least,
you don't
I
put
like
the spinach on the outside. I like spinach.
I like spinach, but my son doesn't. So I would be like, squeeze it in
Hide
there,
it in
between
there.
the cheese and all the good stuff he likes.
Yeah. 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 My kids like bread. So the bread's on the outside, spinach and bologna are on the inside. So a weird sandwich.
And there's always something good. There's always something good. Look at it and go, okay, the overall composition is working. Maybe the composition is working. Maybe if the composition is a problem, well, then let's see, is the color okay? Do you like the vibrancy of these colors? Do you like the contrast? Do you like the character design?
Do you like the subject matter?
Yeah, whatever it is, how they illustrate it, their line work.
Mm-hmm.
There's always something, and there's so many elements to an illustration, and we keep saying illustration, but since
It's
we
also
write as
stories.
well, also to the story. Yeah, there's
Mm-hmm.
also some good things within the story before you critique. And just go like, this is and there is no this is wrong, this is right, because nothing is black and white in the world. Everything
Yeah.
is, has a shade of gray in it. So kind of go like, well, it might be better with this going on here, or it might
Yeah.
read better if it's like that.
But if you
um
just say it in a blah, like if you just like in a direct way, and you don't make it nice and happy and wrapped in a good, nice, sweet package, it hurts more.
yeah,
It's very
and
destructive, I think.
then it's not going to be absorbed. That person is not going to
Right.
be able to get to what you're trying to say
Mm-hmm. They
with it.
won't.
And that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to help that person
Yeah.
improve in
It's
whatever.
it's
Yeah.
all in love. It's in love.
So let's see. Now, if we're already in a close knit, for example, when you and I are going to talk about each other's work, we don't bother
Yeah.
with this anymore,
Don't
because we
sugarcoat
always,
it.
yeah, it's when we
Or
critique
we
each
don't
other's work.
ask.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, yeah, and this I if it's something that, for example, if I know you're working on something, I sometimes don't wait until you ask, but I go, hey, do you want critique? Because if I see something, if I see something and I know you're turning it in, I was like, do you want a little bit of something there? And it will
Yes,
be,
fine.
and then you're like, oh, fine. What is it?
Yes, yeah, and sometimes I avoid you because I don't
I
want to
know.
like
Then you're like, I don't want to redraw this, so I'm not going to show it to her until after I have submitted it. And then you'll be like, then you say, I already
oh,
submitted. I'm like,
well, too
okay,
bad.
it's okay.
The author's happy with it. Sorry. No,
And
but they're
yes, and when you're working with your clients, they are the ones that have to like it at the end. So
yes,
yeah,
that's what's difficult.
it's usually if it's
Or
something
with
that
an editor or art director, they're the
the
ones
same thing.
who are
Yes,
approving it.
yeah. So, but if in a close knit, and if it's a matter of urgency that you're like, oh, we're working on this really fast, you can kind of
Mhm.
bypass this and just go like, hey, this will work better, or hey, I found a tangent here, or whatever you want to say about this.
So many tangents. Olga's the tangent police. But yeah, but you also, well, you also need to consider what art style the other person who's giving you the feedback has, like
Yes.
what they work in. If they don't typically work in your style, their critique may be a little different.
It is, yeah. Like, if some people don't put shadows, and they don't want to
Mhm.
do any of that. And if you are very heavy on shadows, you're going to be like, wait, a shadow's missing. So
Yeah,
yeah, no,
yeah.
it
So you
doesn't
needed to
have
be
to
considerate
look.
of that.
It, it doesn't have to look like your work. That's not what you're
Yeah.
trying to do. What you're trying to do is, how can, knowing the intention that you're trying to do, I can go like, well, it's not reading like you intended it to be. So
Mm-hmm.
if you're trying to get these two kids to look like they are happy walking into the distance, but it's looking like they are just static in motion, then it's not reading correctly.
Mm-hmm.
Then you can go ahead and help with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, so that is for our. This is a short episode
Oh
because there's
yeah.
not much to say about critiques. Because, oops, change the notes. There's not much to say about critiques other than
Well,
the
just
biggest thing is that check your ego at the door,
yeah.
and know that you are trying to get to your next step. You're trying to level up.
Mm-hmm.
So don't get offended. Don't go like, I cannot believe this person thinks that blah blah blah. It's happening in my painting when obviously I'm trying to do this, or this person doesn't know what they're talking about. It's very easy for us to defend the
Yes.
work and defend ourselves.
Yeah.
This is not an attack. A critique is not an attack on your work.
Yeah.
It's actually something for you to improve.
Yeah. It's a valuable tool, and don't be afraid to do it. I was afraid initially.
Yeah. Oh
So
gosh,
it's
yeah. You're right
so
on that.
it's just something you just have to get through it and take it to heart and learn from it.
Yeah.
So yeah. we would love to hear from you and your experiences with critiques, or if you have questions about critiques, because there are some people who may have never experienced a critique if you haven't been in. Although we never talked about school, like critiques that we went through in school. I guess we don't
Oh
really
yeah, we
need
can.
to.
Well, it works the same way. They use the, at least in
The
my,
sandwich
when
method.
I went to Ringling, they used the sandwich method as well. And actually, you know what, the when we critique the work there, you pin it to the board, and the entire class has to critique, because that was one of
Mm-hmm.
the things you also learn to critique somebody else's work.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you're having 30 something students
So
tell you
everyone
everything.
sees, yeah, and everyone gets to read and everyone gets to read
Yeah.
the critiques under each word, each piece, right?
The difference there is the assignment is given, everybody knows the assignment, and usually you stand and you say, this is what I was trying to do, because you're in school, you're saying, this is what I'm trying to do, does it read okay? And then everybody
Mm-hmm.
goes like, oh yes, no, I like this, I don't like that. In professional critiques, it's a little bit different. You don't go and you go, I was trying to do this. No, you're just
You don't
hanging over.
present it.
No,
Yeah.
yeah, you hang
Yeah.
over the portfolio, and you sit there and you're like, and pins and
Just
needles, as this
waiting.
art director or an illustrator, whoever it is, an editor is just moving the pages, moving the pages.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they're quiet until the very end.
Oh yeah, I don't
Sometimes
like
they'll stop and they'll be like, and you don't know if they're stopping because they like it. Or there's a difference here, and I go back to your expectations,
Mm-hmm.
because they are the gatekeepers. You kind of go with expectation of, is this gatekeeper going to let me pass to the next level, or am I going to get stopped here? And our goal, our dream is always going to be, to be received with open arms. Amazing, let's go to work, here's your assignment. And it doesn't,
Yeah.
and most often it doesn't work like that. But at the very least, to hear you're ready for an agent, or and if it's someone that you have seen before, that's something I would say be careful about. It is not often that you'll see the same people, the same critiquers, unless you keep
Yeah.
going to the same agents. And say as someone more local, then you might see them often. Make sure that you're not going to all these conferences with the same work over and over and over again.
True. Yeah.
Have new work. If you have one book dummy, and you, by the next conference, you don't have another book dummy under your belt, you're not progressing, you're not really moving forward.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't just get married to one story and go and shop that story around until you find someone that would sell it.
Because you'll never grow that way.
Right. No, no, no. This is a matter of, every time you do a new piece, you learn something new. Every time you write a new story, you learn something new.
Mm-hmm.
So it is different from school in that aspect, that
Yeah.
this one has a different price at the end, and it is leveling up.
Yeah, so I think that wraps it up. Hopefully, we've given you an idea of what a critique is and how to take one and how to give one. We'd love to hear from you and your experiences with critiques, good or bad. Leave us a comment. And if you have any questions, just let us know. We'd be happy to answer any questions about critiques.
Yeah, let us know how your critique experiences were, but don't put any names. Don't.
Yeah.
Remember, play nice. Always play nice.
Yeah.
And we want to thank you for your reviews and your emails and all your support, and for joining us in this journey as we keep sharing our experiences as we learn ourselves. Thank you for coming along for the ride.
Yeah, thank you for listening, and subscribe.
Yes. Bye-bye.
Bye.